Fine, I'll do it myself. So, you could not live with your own failures. And where did that bring you? Back to me. What's up, you guys? Welcome back again to your Heroclix headquarters. Today I wanted to talk about how to take down the Mad Titan Thanos himself. In this edition of Outwitting the Opposition, we're going to take a look at the legacy card Thanos, and we're going to take a deep dive into what he does and what you guys can do if you happen to play against one, so you can be a little bit more prepared in your next game. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright guys, so of course to defeat Thanos, first we gotta know what Thanos does. So if you guys haven't already seen him, we'll take a look. We got the shiny new legacy card here. Of course, gotta protect it with a nice special sleeve. But anyway, we'll take a look at this trait here. This is really the main thing that gives him all of his power here. At the beginning of your turn, roll a d6 and choose a number of Infinity Gem effects equal to half the result from the list below. Thanos can use the effect until your next turn. So the first one is Power, which gives you Close Combat Expert and Range Combat Expert. The second one is Time, which gives you Probability Control and Super Senses. The next one is Reality, which gives you Barrier and Smoke Cloud, and he may use both as free, but only to generate one marker. Next up we have Soul, which gives Steal Energy, but with close and range attacks, and Regeneration as free. Super good one, that one. But then we have Mind, which is probably the best one overall, which gives improved targeting for hindering, elevated, blocking, and characters. And yes, that just ignores blocking altogether. It does not destroy it. It can ignore as many squares of blocking or walls in the way as you need it to. And can make range attacks while adjacent as well. And Mind Control as free, which is super strong now. And then you also have Space that gives Phase Teleport and Phase Teleport as free, but only to move up to 6 squares. And he can use the chosen effect until your next turn. So yeah, you get lots of great options there. So if your opponent's using Thanos at the beginning of their turn, they're going to roll one die and they're going to be able to choose between 1 and 3 of these effects every single turn. Now, the best one probably being the Mind for the free mind control and improved targeting, but also Soul for the Steal Energy and free regen is really great. And I mean, all of them are great and usable in, basically any situation. Prob Control and Super Senses is great. Close Combat, Range Combat Expert for more damage. Reality for the free barrier and smoke, even if it's just one. And then Space just to phase out of there or into the fight, whatever you need to do. So lots of amazing options there. But then he also has the I Am a God trait that he can use the Cosmic Energy team ability, and he can reduce penetrating damage. So yeah, super powerful effects there. Just to be able to reduce penetrating damage when you have 10 straight clicks full of invuln and toughness, and then an 11th click of regen, just gives him a ton of survivability. And of course, being Cosmic Energy means he's protected outwit, so you can't outwit him. He can reduce penetrating, so you can't just penetrating blast through it. And yeah, it's pretty nuts. And then you add the free regen and Steal Energy, and he can, pretty easily heal up whatever damage you deal to him. He's got 10 range double target for that free mind control that sees through literally everything. He's got a whopping 13 attack that if you do manage to hurt him, just goes up for a few clicks before it eventually goes back down. I mean, you literally have to get this guy down to click like 7 or 8 even before he gets like a more average attack value, and it's just pretty nuts. Now his defense line is not great. That is one of his biggest weaknesses, is just a low defense and overall somewhat of a low damage. He goes up to a 4 there, and he starts with 3 for a while, but for half his dial, he's only rocking a 2. So a lot of his damage actually is going to come from that free mind control that he's going to just be making your own characters hit each other. And I mean, he can pick also Close and Range Combat Expert if he needs to up his damage value for his regular attacks as well. So that is also an option available to him. But yeah, so that's basically the gist of it. He can pick several good abilities every turn, even if he just picks one. He could just pick free regen and just heal up and then clear and just turn if he needs to. because you're always going to get one no matter what. And he also has willpower, of course, from the Power Cosmic, so he's going to be able to potentially take his tokens off. And he's 175 points, so he still has 125 points of teammates that can enhance him, perplex him, prob control stuff, you know, defend his defense value up, whatever. There's a lot of stuff you can still squeeze onto a team. And yeah, it gets pretty nuts, especially since he can see through everything and do all that free stuff. So I've got a big batch of figures over here that I wanted to go through really quickly just to give you a few tips and tricks of like what kind of things to look for. Now, my general advice, if you don't have any of this stuff, would just be that you have to just attack him a lot. Your best bet, honestly, is to just keep hitting him. If you have a lot of, you know, charge flurry, that if you can manage to get to him, that's kind of the biggest part. If you can manage to get to him, you know, a lot of charge flurry, a lot of just attack, you know, whittle him down as much as you can, out action him to death. You know, he is still 175 points. He does still take up over half of a team by himself. So that is still a big weakness, which also means he's probably not going to have like a huge role for initiative, which means, you know, you have decent odds. If you have like a big theme team, you have decent odds of winning map, because I think the biggest Thanos theme teams I've seen is like 5-ish figures, maybe 6. So if you can get like a +8, which is pretty easy in today's game, you have a pretty good odds of getting a +2 or +3 over him every single time, which means you can pick map. And that is honestly one of the best ways, just right off the bat, to beat him. If you can pick a map that's just wide open, that doesn't give him a lot of space to run and hide. I pulled out this map. This is Aunt Petunia's house, and this has lots of like walls everywhere. You probably can't really see it. I got it kind of zoomed in here, but it's got a lot of walls everywhere. Thanos always wants to be on those kinds of maps that have lots of blocking, lots of walls, because he can see through all of that with his 10 range. He can phase teleport away behind all of those walls if he needs to. And yeah, it just makes it impossible to get to him in the first place. So you want to put him on a map that has very little to get in the way, because you just want to throw your whole team at him and just wail on him, attack, whittle him down, out action him to death. That, number one, is the best strategy. Now, I have, like I said, a bunch of figures here that are a little bit more specific that I wanted to go over to just give you a kind of sense of what to look for as far as more specific powers and abilities that will help you both offensively and defensively against Thanos. Number one, the emotional modifier is actually just overall, generically, probably the best thing you can put on your team right now. Especially as we're talking about just modern age. So for only 10 points, this thing, you basically just want to choose the bottom option here. Characters within 4 squares in line of fire can use Battle Fury. So if you give all of your characters Battle Fury, yeah, it might kind of suck depending on your team, because you can't carry them around and they can't make range attacks or whatever, but they also cannot be mind controlled, and that is huge. Because Thanos not being able to just mind control your whole team to death basically means that, you know, he's just going to be able to make regular attacks against like one character at a time, and that gives you a lot more opportunity to actually get up into, you know, his face and actually attack him. And not just be worried about getting mind controlled and getting, you know, moved back a bunch of squares, and that can really suck. So number one, I would say put the emotional modifier on your team. It's good in a lot of other instances too, not just against Thanos. It's probably still just one of the overall best equipment objects in modern age right now, so I highly recommend putting that on your team. All right, now for some other modern age options as far as figures go, I just wanted to go over some of these here that can help you shut off Thanos' defense powers, or all of his powers even in general. But first of all, we'll take a look at this Chase Beast here from Empire. He's really, really awesome. And one reason I like him a lot, specifically against Thanos, is because down here he's got this special outwit and probability control.
And when Beast uses Outwit until your next turn, the chosen power also can't be used by opposing characters if they are within 4 squares of Beast, and opposing characters within range can't use Safeguard Outwit or Protected Outwit. So this is actually huge. If you can get this guy within range of, Thanos, then he can't use his Protected Outwit. You can just outwit the invuln. You could outwit regen, steal energy, mind control. You could outwit all of that stuff, if you have enough outwits on your team, I should say. But you could at least outwit the invuln and get some heavy damage in on him. Now, he's 125 or 75 points. I'd probably recommend just squeezing him on your team at 75 points and, trying to fill up your team with more, outwitters, more good attackers, etc., etc. And but I mean, he's a really good option. He does a lot of other good stuff for your team as well, but really just being able to get around the Protected Outwit is great. And then we also have this rare Karnak figure from Fantastic Four. I kind of forgot all about him, but I just happened upon him the other day and I was like, oh my gosh, he'd actually be somewhat effective against Thanos. So he does have this special damage power that gives him Close Combat Expert and Outwit, and when Karnak has no action tokens and uses Outwit, adjacent opposing characters can't use Protected Outwit or Protected Outwit until your next turn. So that's actually now Safeguard Outwit. So they can't use Protected or Safeguard Outwit if he is adjacent to them and has no action tokens. So, a little bit harder to pull off for sure, and, Inhumans Martial Artist, not the best keywords, but he is only 40 points, so I mean, if you can come up with a decent team to throw this guy on, he's only a rare too, he's only like a couple bucks, so you don't have to spend like $70 or whatever on Beast, who's a chase, and you can have like some type of, weapon against Thanos, just to be able to get through his invulnerability and kind of crack that shell a little bit, get some damage in on him. So he is a modern age option. And then of course we also have Leech. Now Leech here is about to get a legacy card in the upcoming X of Swords, or should I say 10 of Swords? Oop. So look out for that legacy card for Leech, but if you haven't seen it already, I'll try to post it on screen for you guys. So basically he just has a trait that says adjacent characters can't use powers, so you do have to watch out because that will affect your own characters, but if you can park this guy next to Thanos, he just can't use any powers at all, which just decimates him. I mean, he can't, like, all of the free options that he could pick are like all powers pretty much, so he still wouldn't be able to use any of that. And you could just punch through his invuln. He can't use it. It's not an outwit, so he's not, protected from it. And he just really, really shuts Thanos down. And if you're playing Silver Age, which, is definitely a thing right now, there's going to be some Silver Age events coming up soon, some more of them anyway. There's been a few. Thanos did really well in those. And of course, there's the Leech ID card, which you can play in Silver Age to just call in this little Leech guy here, and you can put him, just plop him right there next to Thanos, and then he can't do anything about it, and you can kind of plan it out better. It might be a little bit harder to like carry him into position, or it might be easier. That's really up to you, up to the team you build. But Leech ID card with this guy with his legacy card is definitely going to be a thing. And for this Beast also has 2 ID cards of his own that you could use to call him in, because his name is just Beast. It's not like Beast the Sorcerer Supreme, thankfully, or anything like that. So he's just Beast, and you can call him in with his ID card. And you got 2 options there. So pretty good for Silver Age. You can just call him in, use that super outwit, and just go to town on Thanos. So those are some cool ones too, but moving on, I got some more to look at here. All right, so here's a few more Silver Age options. Unfortunately, all of these characters are like right about to rotate out of Modern. As I'm recording this, they're going to rotate out like any week. So yeah, that kind of sucks, but they're still going to be great, I think, for Silver Age options to deal with Thanos. Now, first of all, we have Mr. Fantastic here from the Cosmic Clash starter set. I actually love this Mr. Fantastic, one of my favorites. One of the reasons I like him so much, though, is, again, a special outwit. So he's got a special damage that gives him leadership and outwit, and then free, choose an opposing character of higher points within 4 squares in line of fire, and a power, standard or special, they can use. The chosen character can't use that power until your next turn. So that's just great because it's not Outwit, because you can just turn off any power. It gets around, the protected Outwit and the safeguard Outwit from the team ability. And yeah, you also have a regular Outwit, some leadership. He's good on a Fantastic Four swap team because, you can just swap him in if you're going against Thanos to get an Outwit on him. You don't actually have to play him on your main team if you don't need him. And I think he's a pretty decent option for that. And then a little more defensive options here. We have the Wasp and Black Widow. Wasp from Captain America and the Avengers, Black Widow from her movie set. Now, what I like about these ones, they give you kind of that emotional modifier effect in a sense. But with Wasp, opposing characters within 5 squares can't use improved targeting abilities, which is just amazing. So, it shuts off all of his super improved targeting. You do have to be within 5 of him though, which is kind of the only downside. But if you take a look at the back of her card here, she's only 40 points. If you want to just play her at the 40-point line, you could also play her at 75, but I think just sneaking her on the team for 40 is a pretty good option there, just to, if you can get within 5 of him, to shut that off. Now, she just has to be within 5 of him, so you could just kind of TK her out, run her up there, get her within 5 of Thanos, so that he has to kind of, deal with that first, while the rest of your team can move up more safely. But then I also have the common Black Widow here, who does something very similar, which it says if Black Widow is on a theme team or your starting force has 2 other characters from the Black Widow movie set, opposing characters can't use improved targeting abilities to target her or adjacent friendly characters. So yeah, again, same thing. They just can't be targeted by improved targeting abilities, which is huge. It gives you just, so much more defensive options against him. If he does play on a map with a ton of blocking, he won't be able to see through it for her or any of her adjacent friendlies. And, she's also got stealth, and, if you got some stealth, then he can't see through the hindering, so he can't see her in stealth, etc. And she's just great because she also has a shifting focus. And I mean, all the shifting focus Black Widows are great, but specifically for this one is good offensively against Thanos as well. Mostly because she has this smoke cloud here, which she can use as free. And then opposing characters occupying her smoke cloud markers can't use improved abilities or team abilities. So again, if she smoke clouds on top of him, he can no longer use his improved targeting abilities. And since he can't use team abilities, it means he can't use the cosmic energy team ability. So then she is free to outwit him, and the rest of your team can just attack him and, destroy him. And these are Avengers, so good for Avengers swaps. If you're running Avengers swaps with the Captain America that swaps them out, that way, you can use them if you want, if you're going against Thanos, and if you're not, then you just swap them out for some other options. And then, of course, we have the Chase Black Widow as well. She's always been amazing, and I've used her a ton, and she's always done great for me. So the main reason, of course, for that is because of this trait that she has. It gives her stealth, and Black Widow starts the game with 5 tradecraft tokens. Free, remove a tradecraft token to choose an opposing character within 6 squares and line of fire. Until your next turn, that character can't use a standard power unless it's displayed on their dial as a colored square. They also can't have their combat values positively modified, which is nice. And yeah, I mean, that just totally shuts down literally everything Thanos can do except for invulnerability. That is the only colored square on his entire dial, except for when he goes into toughness and regen. But it just shuts down basically everything. She also has stop clicks. She can, leadership outwit. She can call in people, for the, recruits and stuff. They can use poison and whatnot. And she's just a great attacker with those kinds of stats. 100 points is a bit much, but I think she is a great option for fighting Thanos. And again, for Wasp and all these Black Widows, you have the options, if you're playing Silver Age, of calling them in with ID cards and using them just off the sideline as a one-off call-in to deal with Thanos for the turn. And, probably kill him in one turn if you really time things right. Or at least, you could call in one of them to protect you for the turn, to get into position to actually attack him first, which is also kind of a big deal. And since we're on the subject of Silver Age games and calling stuff in off the sideline, of course, my favorite pick for that would be the Green Arrow Chase from the Elseworld set. And of course, the main reason for that is his attack power that says when a green arrow hits with a range attack, the hit target can't use defense powers until your next turn. If the hit target has the Kryptonian keyword, give it an action token also. But they just can't use defense powers. So, you hit Thanos. As soon as he hits, that kicks in, so he can't use the invuln, so he'll be hitting him for 4 damage with the ranged combat expert, and then the rest of your team just follows up and finishes him off. So you just play him on your team in Silver Age, or you call him in with his Green Arrow ID card and just evaporate Thanos in 1 turn, hopefully. All right, and now I just wanted to kind of circle back to a few more Modern Age options we have that I wanted to talk about really quickly. So we also have the uncommon Donald Blake. Now, I don't really recommend playing this guy in like a super highly competitive event, but if you don't really have any better options, he's just an uncommon. He doesn't break the bank. He is 90 points and kind of just your average close combat attacker, more or less. But he has this trait that says when Donald Blake makes a close attack, his targets can't use defense powers. So I just think that is kind of worth noting that he could run up and just punch Thanos off of invulnerability. If he can get some Empower in place or something first, then he can really just knock him right off invuln. And then, in my opinion, it's a lot easier to start damaging Thanos after he's knocked off invuln, and you just start wailing on him when he's just got toughness, a couple more decent attacks, and it just kind of kills him. So I think you could maybe work something with Donald Blake. I think that would be an interesting thing to try out. But nonetheless, it is kind of a more budget option. And then I had a couple other more fun options as well, which would be if you want to go mano a mano, get another 175 point beast up in here that can, I think, have a good chance at besting Thanos. So first up, we've got Juggernaut here. One of the main reasons I think this guy has a chance against Thanos is because he has Battle Fury, which is huge, and it also gets rid of stops, and they can't use leadership or perplex, which is really cool. But, just having Battle Fury means that he can't be targeted by mind control, which is great. He can also just run straight through walls. But then he also has a special charge that when he uses it, you can choose to not have his speed value. And if you do, he can also use improved targeting characters and can only move in a direct path. And if you use charge during your last turn, he can't become immobile, which is actually pretty nice. So yeah, I just like having that full dial Battle Fury so he can't be mind controlled to hit your own guys. And these huge charge ranges that can just bust right through blocking. So it doesn't matter how many walls is in his way, he can just, still charge on Thanos. And then you can just, get Thanos in a fist fight and maybe Juggernaut can win. Even if Thanos face teleports away, he can just keep charging on him. So I think that's kind of an option. And then you also have Legacy Magneto. And I like this because, Legacy card versus Legacy card, another 175 point character. Again, main reason I like him is because Safeguard, Mind Control, and Penetrating Blast, so he also can't be mind controlled into hitting his own guys. But it's really everything that he can do. Traded Energy Shield, Sidestep, Regen, but only if he occupies squares with a debris marker. He modifies all his combat values by +1 if he's within 4 of a debris marker, so he's going to be +1 everything pretty much all the time if you use him right. Telekinesis, and at the beginning of your turn, you can destroy a square of blocking terrain within range, so he can, bust down some blocking in the way, and then, potentially running shot through there, and maybe get a shot in on Thanos. But then he also has invulnerability and willpower, and opposing characters within range half their range value, which I think is huge, because that actually cuts Thanos' range down to 5. And, Magneto here also has a 10 range, so you can actually outrange Thanos at that point. And +1 all stats, he's going to be a 12, 19 with Energy Shield for 5 damage. So again, he can definitely bring the hurt on Thanos. And then the other options I wanted to mention, I also think as far as like X-Men huge beat sticks go, the Old Man Phoenix is another fun option. 160 points. He's got Charge Flurry and Battle Fury, so he also can't be mind controlled, and he can also just get up in there and just punch, knock Thanos off invuln, and maybe the rest of your team can come in and assist with finishing him off. But then also a huge one is Scarlet Witch and Agatha Harkness. If you can get them into position to drop their hex marker things, then they can turn off all of Thanos' powers as long as he's within 3 of the marker. And again, then your whole team can just blast him down to death. So as you can see, there's a lot of options in both Modern Age and Silver Age, from lower cost support figures to higher cost one-man armies. There's a lot of things you can do to actually combat Thanos, aside from just the more generic advice of, you know, picking a good map that doesn't have a lot of blocking for him to hide behind, and just out-actioning him to death. And I think it's also worth noting, there's also going to be the Muramasa Blade that gives you Blade's Claw's Fangs, and if you use it and roll a 1 through 3, the hit character can't use defense powers. So that's, again, another option of just getting through his defense power without having to, you know, outwit it or penetrating blast it or anything, because you can't do those things. And then I think another great defensive option, and that is a nice little 40-point Deadpool that gives everybody adjacent to him the swim ability, and he can also make water terrain for free. So if you haven't read the swim ability in a while, opposing characters have to be within 4 squares of your character that has a swim ability that's in water, to actually be able to target them. So that kind of, you know, reduces Thanos' huge 10 range down to a 4, which is much more manageable. And as I'm saying this, I also just remembered another one I forgot to pull out here, and that is, of course, the Prime Bishop. He is from House of X. And, you know, being a common prime, again, is a pretty easy figure to get a hold of. And, you know, only 40 points, and he makes the Shard Bystander. And the Shard Bystander has a trait that basically says your opposing characters cannot target your friendly characters unless they're within 5 squares of them. So again, for only 40 points, he's cutting Thanos' range down to a 5, which is much more manageable to deal with. So yeah, he's another great cheap option that I forgot to pull out to show. And I almost forgot another Modern Age option that is totally, I think, viable, is the Secret Six theme teams, because all those chases from the Wonder Woman set have a shared trait where they can use Outwit, and if they're on a Secret Six theme team or whatever with 6 or more of them, then the opposing characters can't use like protected Outwit when they're targeted with Outwit. So yeah, you could get through Thanos' defense that way as well if you have a Secret Six theme team. And I mean, that's still, I think, a pretty solid team. I mean, I haven't seen it winning any huge events recently. I think people just kind of got over it. Or, you know, came up with a few better teams. But considering against Thanos specifically, I think it could make a resurgence. I think it'd be worth trying, maybe, at least. Because you've got things like Sky Tyrant, Scarab, the Commissioner, what's her name, Giganta. You know, you've got all these other Secret Six characters that are still totally meta-relevant. I still think they could also be used against Thanos, so I want to sneak that in there too. But that's about it. So let me know down in the comments if you guys got any other ideas or strategies on how to beat Thanos. Let me know if I missed anything that you think is obvious, because that's definitely possible, even though I got a lot of stuff on this video. And yeah, just let me know all your thoughts and opinions about how you've managed to do against Thanos. There's a lot of options to deal with Thanos, both offensively and defensively. So I really just want to make this video to give you guys, you know, some tips and tricks, what to look out for, what to try out that might help you against Thanos if you're having a hard time against your friend bringing him every week, or you're nervous to go into a big competitive game. Now, I will say a lot of these figures aren't exactly like top tier meta or anything, but I know a lot of people want to try out going to meta events and they don't have all these super expensive, like, better figures. So some of these are decent options. Some of them are also still kind of expensive. But yeah, and like I said, just the generic advice about actioning him and picking a good map. So yeah, if you guys have any other tips and tricks for facing down Thanos, please leave them in the comments for everybody to enjoy. And let me know your stories of overcoming Thanos or failing against Thanos, whatever you want to, you know, talk about. We'll talk about it in the comments. And also, if you have any further questions, please make sure to leave those as well, and I will answer them to the best of my abilities. But yeah, that's about it, you guys.
And now the sun sets on a grateful universe. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you smash that like button. It does help me out a lot. Of course, let me know in the comments if you guys have any other tips and tricks to beat Thanos. let us all know. We can all talk about it down there. But of course, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. And if you'd like to help support the channel even more, you can check the links in the description for the Patreon so you can see your name here in the credits as well as some other cool stuff. But that's going to do it for this one. So until next time, this has been Heroclix Headquarters, and I am inevitable.